Test 1, 2, 3. Test 1, 2, 3.
Good evening, everyone. We're going to call our special council meeting to order for Wednesday, June the 12th, 2024 at 6:15 p.m. Number 2 is a declaration of pecuniary interest. Any members of council have a declaration of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. Number 3 is our approval of the agenda. We have a motion that the agenda of the special council meeting for June the 12th, 2024 be approved as presented. I'll look for mover, Councillor Seconder, Councillor DeRush. Comments or questions? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? That is carried. 4 is in-camera items. We have 2 items. Before I read this, I'll just look to members of council. We have a Transportation Environmental Services Organizational Structure Update, FCS 2024-03, with a staff report. Does any member wish to go into camera to discussing to that report? Councillor Vedder, okay. And the second item is 78 Main Street Court Submission Update. Do any members wish to ask anything of staff in closed session on that item? Okay, Councillor Marchand, no problem. So we have a motion that in accordance with the Town of Penetanguishene Procedural Bylaw 2023-50, the Council of the Town of Penetanguishene move into an in-camera session to discuss personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, labor relations or employee negotiations, litigation or potential litigation affecting the municipality or local board, including matters before administrative tribunals, advice as subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. And again, we have 2 items, Transportation Environmental Services Organizational Structure Update, FCS 2024-03. And the second item is 78 Main Street Court Submission Update. I'll look for a mover, Councillor Marchand, seconder, Councillor Waters. Call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? And that is carried. We'll move into our in-camera session to resume. All right, welcome everyone. We had a 6:15 p.m. meeting, so we're just wrapping that up. We're not actually starting our actual council meeting yet. All right, council, number 4 is that council of the town of Pantangasheen rise from an in-camera session without a report. I'm going to look for a mover, please. Councillor Vadabunker, second by Councillor Marshall. Call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? And that is carried. 5 is reports from an in-camera meeting held. Again, there was 2 items that we discussed: Transportation Environmental Services Organizational Structure Update, FCS 2024-03. The second item was 78 Main Street Court Submission Update. Again, those are just FYI information items. Number 6 is question period from the medium public. Do any members have any questions regarding our 6:15 p.m. meeting? Seeing none, I'm going to look for an adjournment at 6:42. It's moved by Councillor Wu, second by Councillor Marshall. All in favor? And opposed? That is carried. We're back at 7 p.m. with our council meeting. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to our council meeting for Wednesday, June the 12th, 2024 at 7 p.m. Before we get started, a couple small notes. If you're here for the public meeting regarding 65 Nettleton Drive, that's been rescheduled to a future meeting. You're welcome to stay, but if you are here for the application, we will not be hearing that tonight, so it will be a future meeting. Second item, I'm going to ask if Chief Renault can guide us through our public safety announcement. Chief Renault.
Good evening and welcome to this evening's council meeting. Just a few messages before we start. Washrooms are located just outside of council chambers down the hallway to the right. The town hall is protected by a single source fire alarm system. Should the fire alarm ring, please exit the building through the rear or the sides, and we'll meet in the parking lot just next to the church. In the event of a medical emergency, please dial 911. The address here is number 10 Robert Street West in Penetanguishene. And just as a reminder, there is a public access defibrillator just outside of council chambers on the wall. I wish you a good meeting. Bonjour, mesdames et messieurs, et bienvenue à la salle de conseil pour la ville de Penetanguishene. Avant que nous commençons une couple de messages, les chambres de bain sont situées juste à la sortie, à l'arrière, au bout du corridor à votre droite. Le système d'alarme de feu est un système un stage. Si l'alarme feu sonne, veuillez quitter l'édifice par la porte arrière ou de côté et on se rejoint dans le stationnement de l'église. En cas de problèmes médicaux, veuillez signaler le 911. L'adresse ici est le numéro 10 rue Robert Ouest à Penetanguishene. Et je veux vous rappeler qu'il y a un défibrillateur public juste à la sortie de la salle ici. Je vous souhaite une bonne soirée. Merci. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you very much, Chief Renault. Number 2 is our land acknowledgement. Penetanguishene respectfully acknowledges that we are on the traditional treaty territory of the Anishinaabe people and their ancestors, now known as the Williams Treaties First Nations territory. This includes Chippewa Tri-Council, comprised of Bosley First Nation, Rama First Nation, and the Georgina Island First Nation. Alderville, Curve Lake, Hiawatha, and the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nations. Also once home of the Huron-Wendat and more recently the historic settlement of the Métis, Penetanguishene is now home to many Indigenous peoples. Penetanguishene is proud of its Indigenous name and, more importantly, that for thousands of years it has been and will continue to be an important homeland and gathering place for Indigenous people. We recognize that we are the stewards and caretakers of these lands and waters and are responsible to ensure that our mother, the earth, is here for future generations. 3 is our welcome council commitment. I want to welcome everyone to our chambers. Thank you for being here. I'm going to ask council to stand, and Councillor Drush, if you can guide us through our council commitment.
Thank you. Nous sommes reconnaissants des nombreuses grâces accordées à Penetanguishene et à ses citoyens dont la liberté, les possibilités et la paix dont nous jouissons. Que nous soyons des intendants dignes de tout ce qui nous a été confié. Nous demandons que toutes les personnes présentes et celles qui n'ont pas pu se présenter nous aident à promouvoir une bonne gouvernance. Que nos décisions, à titre de membres du Conseil, soient éclairées et que nous soyons tous renforcés à prendre conscience de nos devoirs et responsabilités. Que l'on nous accorde la sagesse, les connaissances, la volonté et la compréhension qui nous permettront de préserver la bonne fortune de la ville au bénéfice de tous, ainsi que de faire de bonnes lois et prendre de sages décisions. Merci de votre présence.
Thank you, Councillor Rush. Councillor Waters.
We are grateful for the many gifts which have been bestowed on Penetanguishene and its citizens, including the gifts of freedom, opportunity, and peace that we enjoy. May we be worthy custodians of all that have been entrusted to us. We ask that all in attendance and those that could not be here assist us in promoting good government. May our decisions as members of council be enlightened, and may we all be strengthened in our awareness of our duties and responsibilities. May we be granted the wisdom, knowledge, will, and understanding to preserve the good fortune of the town for the benefit of all and to make good laws and wise decisions. And thank you for attending.
And thank you, Councillor Waters. Before we move on, we do have an open forum which enables any member of the public to address council on any matters. I'd ask that you just go to the Madam Clerk to register for that. We do have a public meeting tonight. So if you are here regarding 245 Church Street, you can bring your comments during that public meeting. But if you want to address council about any other matter, please go to Madam Clerk and register for that during open forum tonight. All right, council, number 4 is our approval of the agenda. I have a motion that the agenda of the regular council meeting for June the 12th, 2024 be approved as presented. Moved by Councillor Marchand, seconded by Councillor Waters. Any discussion? Call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? That is carried. 5 is a declaration of pecuniary interest. Any members of council have a declaration of pecuniary interest tonight? Seeing none. Okay, 5 is our open forum. Again, this is members of the public opportunity to address council about any matter that's important to you. Madam Clerk, does anybody register for open forum this evening?
Thank you, Your Worship. We did have one registrant, but as you mentioned, it is related to the zoning bond law amendment for 245 Church Street.
Whoever that is, I think it's best to bring your comment to the public meeting. That's the official part of the meeting for that item. So it won't form part of the official record unless it's during the public meeting. So whoever that is, you're welcome to speak now, but I would suggest the public meeting is the best time. Madam Clerk, do you just know who it is? Let me just get a thumb up. I would suggest, sir, the best time is during that part of the meeting. That's a specific application of the Planning Act, and your comments wouldn't be considered in the future unless it's in that portion of the meeting. So you're welcome to, but for formality, I think it's best to do it at that part. Okay, well, we'll bring that forward to that session. Madam Clerk, there was no other members? Does anybody wish to bring anything forward that wants to address council? Okay, thank you. Moving on, 7 is statement from members. Members of council is working on your behalf, and every month we like to report back to you what we've been doing. So it's time for council to share that. I'm going to start with Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a couple really quick ones. We had an opening of our pump track at Martin Valley Park, and to go down there and see what it's been like over all the years to see what it is now was absolutely amazing. Big kudos out to our volunteers, especially our Friends of the Youth group who donated $100,000 towards the project. It turned out absolutely wonderful. The other one I had, Your Worship, was we had Seniors Day at the arena. I think it was Thursday, I'm not sure. But again, a very well-run event. The place was packed. I talked to a lot of the vendors that were running out of material. They were so busy. So again, kudos to our staff and our volunteers that put that on and made it a very special day.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor DeRush.
Thank you very much. It's hard to, I had both of those items on my list, so there you go. But I will elaborate on the Seniors Information Day. So as Deputy Mayor mentioned, it was held on the Thursday last week, June 6th, and it was at the Penetang Arena. And we had over 50 exhibitors. We had an estimated 300 attendees, and lunch was prepared by the Ladies of St. Anne's, and it was delicious, of course. And we had tons of generous prizes that were donated by our exhibitors. So we probably drew close to 60 prizes. And I think we had, well, out of 300 ballots, I mean, the chance of winning were great. So it was really fun to participate too. And then, of course, we had the Senior of the Year award presented. We'll talk about that a little later this evening. And after the formal exhibition kind of deal, we had a presentation from Jamie, and she talked about e-bikes. So we heard all about e-bikes and the uncertainties that are out there, and we talked about some of the facts and whatnot. So it was very informative, and it was really interesting to see how many seniors in the room actually had either driven them, owned them, or knew quite a bit of information about it. So I think it was timely and it was very interesting. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor DeRush. Councillor Waters.
Sorry, my stuff. I'm not going to mention that other stuff. Since our last meeting, I spent a fair amount of time in May where I was joined with Sonia from Fairlane Transport, and we visited downtown core merchants mostly to try and collect data for a proposed upcoming business directory, map directory. On the 23rd, I was here for flag raising for the Victoria Order of Nurses. And they're a great organization. If you ever have any sort of stuff where it saves you having to spend a day in the hospital to try and get a Band-Aid changed or something. They did great work. And it was also the same day we had the Georgian Bay Native Women Association had their grand opening for their new facility down across from the old post office. And that's about it.
Thank you, Councillor Waters. Councillor Leroux.
Thank you, Your Worship. And again, some of these same things, but I'm going to touch on them anyway. Penetanguishene, as we know, has certainly had a very productive May and beginning of June. And I think it starts with the grand opening, as Councillor Waters alluded to the Georgian Bay Native Women's Association. And Councillor Marchand was present with us, as well as yourself, Your Worship. And I was very impressed with the celebration and the ceremony. And it's nice to see at 41 Main Street that it's going to provide a hub for Indigenous women and their families, provide a safe and welcoming space where they can access services and support. And then on Sunday, May the 26th, I attended the official opening of our new Martins Valley pump track. And it is one of a kind in Simcoe County. And as Deputy Mayor alluded, it is a phenomenal park. On Sunday, June 6th, on behalf of Your Worship, on behalf of Mayor Rawson, I attended the blessings of our municipal flower gardens at Martyrs Shrine. It was a great fellowship day. June the 6th, as mentioned with the seniors information, recognizing the amount of people that attended that and the information that is given. Again, it is just phenomenal. And one thing I might mention is that since June is Seniors Month, that maybe all seniors should consider getting this directory, which I'm sure is available downstairs for the seniors directory. And finally, I was pleased to see the amount of pavement and repairs once again for a number of our streets and lanes, and especially the roundabout at our town dock. And that's it for me.
Thank you very much, Councillor Marchand.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm going to touch on a couple different things that I've been involved in. I know that we might have a picture later of our phenomenal bowling for Big Brothers and Big Sisters. As much as I'd like to say I carried the team, I did not represent at all. But I was there in spirit, and so that was great to be out and support Big Brothers and Big Sisters and doing some bowling with our fellow peers and some members of staff as well. So that was a great evening. Yesterday, the Trails Committee met, and we thought we would get active and get engaged in our trail system, and we met at the fire hall. So thank you, Chief Renaud, for allowing us to have our meeting there. And then we headed through the Payette Trail. It's one of the trails that is scheduled on our capital build to do some improvements. And so it was a great opportunity for us to be one with nature and walk through our beautiful trails and really appreciate the older pines and the richness of that walking trail. So it's a great path. I do a lot of running up there. I'm up on the hill. So really great job in terms of maintaining it and keeping that vibrant. So appreciate our volunteers in the Trails Committee and getting out there and being active. Also want to thank the Trails Committee for being part of the June 1st kickoff as well, the bike rodeo, and they also did some guided walking tours. Certainly a lot of our local club and walking groups participated. About two groups were guided through the trails and about 25 individuals in the community. So it was great to see and get out there and enjoy our trail system. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Marchand. Councillor Vadebunker.
Thank you, Worship. I'll start off by saying that I was part of the bowling team as well that represented the town at the fundraiser for Big Brothers and Big Sisters, and I did not carry the team either. It was a fun evening, and it was great to see so many friends from the area bowling. I was involved in a few of the activities already described. I just want to mention one thing. I just saw that picture flash up. There we go. I'm talking and the picture flash up. So at the pump track, Deputy Mayor mentioned about the Friends of Penetanguishene Youth and their contribution. It was really nice to see a lot of the Friends of the Penetanguishene Youth. I haven't seen them in a while. They kind of do their work very quietly, but they were certainly there for the grand opening. It was really nice to see them there. On Friday, I attended the Waypoint Center for Mental Health Care presentation of their annual report to the community. The report is chock full of information about the facility, its partnerships, and the impacts in the lives of people it serves. I brought a copy here. This is what it looks like. It's on their website, I believe. It was a great presentation of their of what they do for our community and what they do for the patients and the area. Just before the presentation of the annual report, the TD Bank was acknowledged, and our folks from our local branch were there. They've made a significant contribution to Waypoint, and Waypoint has acknowledged that contribution by renaming the auditorium at Waypoint the TD Auditorium. So that was really nice to see. And later on June 7th, I attended the 25th season opening performance at Kings Wharf Theatre. And there's some members around the table here that will remember when Drayton Festival Theatre came to town in 1999. And can you believe it, Councillor Roux and Deputy Mayor Rose, it's 25 years since they've been operating here, and what a great performance. And it was so nice to see everybody again. Looking forward to another season of live theatre. So anyway, that concludes my report, Your Worship.
Thank you very much, Councillor Vadbonker. CEO Lees, comments from yourself on behalf of the administration.
Thank you, Your Worship. As I thought about what I was going to cover tonight, there was lots of items I could cover, like paving or municipal events, how busy the fire department's been with structure fire and other calls, records management, town dock, budget, lots of fun things. But I've narrowed that down, dwindled it down to a couple. First, there was some discussion about our Seniors Information Day, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention Angel Prue, our admin assist in Recreation and Community Services, who's with us this evening, played a huge part in that event, and it takes a lot of volunteers and a lot of groups to pull that together. But of course, we know that that doesn't happen without staff. So wanted to mention Angel. A couple things. We pushed out a release recently through some kind of conscious discussion internally and in the effort to be financially due diligent. We've decided to discontinue the issuance of checks, and this is not to be confused with folks that are paying the municipality. This is where the municipality is paying vendors and contractors for services we receive. We will not be issuing checks. We will be requiring those vendors to sign up for electronic funds transfer. The second piece is, in a couple of weeks, we'll be closing our office for about 3 hours for a staff appreciation event. News release has gone out, and we will continue to push that out leading up to June 20th. And last but not least, last week, I'm proud to say that last week we hosted our friends from the town of Midland for an emergency management exercise that spanned over 2 days. In short, I would suggest that this organization and this municipality and this community is in safe hands and very well positioned for future events, and will continue to build upon what we've learned over the years, and certainly an actual experience we learned and what went through in the fall has certainly contributed to that. So thank you, Your Worship. Those were the 3 updates.
Thank you very much, CEO Lees. I'm going to start by saying sorry. Last month was Clerk's Week during our council meeting, and I didn't acknowledge it. So to Madam Clerk, Stacey Cooper, and Deputy Clerk Kelly Cole, on behalf of our council, thank you. Although it's a month late, thank you for all you do. I realized that Friday at about 4 o'clock. So I said, I'm not going to say I'll wait till today, but that was my mistake, my bad. I won't forget next year. I worked as a paramedic for 17 years, and I was acknowledged by many of my peers that I neglected to acknowledge EMS Week, which was the same time frame as Clerk's Week. So I've made several faults, and I'm sorry to those that I did that to. I won't repeat what everyone said, but Seniors Day, the Waypoint AGM, the pump track, phenomenal work. But I think that just goes to celebrate how amazing our community is. It's everybody that makes it wonderful. It's the countless hours of volunteer work, staff work, visionary work that takes years to get it where it is. So all those events were tremendous. I'll just also highlight a couple others. I represented the municipality last week at the Ontario Association of Police Service Boards. Ontario is going through a new process for police services boards. Penetanguishene no longer has a police services board. We're part of what's called the Detachment Board, which comprises of Midland, Penetanguishene, Tiny Township, Tate Township, and Georgian Bay Township. So it's one regional police board, and we're at the association's conference to learn more about how we're going to move forward from a governance structure. Our municipal rep is Doug Taylor. He was there participating in the educational sessions, as well as most of our community partners. So I think that was really good. I also had a meeting this past week regarding the Canadian Museum of Water. Some really interesting things happen, which I think we'll see some stuff come forward at a future date. Last week, myself and the deputy mayor and the CO, we hosted heads of council from Midland, Penetanguishene, Tiny Tay, and Springwater to meet and collaborate. So that was a good opportunity for us to go. And I also want to emphasize what Councillor Roux mentioned, the Georgia Bay Native Women's Association. What a great event, what a phenomenal facility. I think it was just a great celebration, and I'm glad they're in our community. And I'll just end with the bowling event. I too was there, and the theme was "We Won," and it's a thread, right? We tend to be winning log saw competitions, all these things. Not that it's about competition, but when it is, we do tend to prevail. So thank you. That's comments from our council. Councillor Vadvanker.
Thank you, Worship. When I was speaking about Drayton Festival Theatre, I forgot to mention a lady who's sitting in the audience there, Her Worship, Mayor Anita Dubow, former mayor, deputy mayor, who was on council back in the day too and remembers, and she was there Friday night as well, the 25 years of Drayton being in town. So sorry about that, Your Worship.
Very well said. Thank you, Anita. All right, moving on. 8 is proclamations and resolutions. We have 2 this evening, Council. Before I read out the first one, any comments or questions? Okay, for members of the public's information, last month at our committee of the whole meeting, we get a bunch of reports come forward. I believe Councillor Waters, you're the one that pulled the first one. It was regarding burial and cremation services, and it was to support another municipality. And what we're finding is that some cemeteries aren't being maintained, and it's falling to the municipality. And they're falling to disarray and what's going on. And we're doing some proactive work with our provincial association called the Association of Municipalities of Ontario to say, can you help support us? So Councillor Waters, you pulled that, you identified that, you brought that to council, you said, hey, I'd like to know more about that, and let's support that motion. So that's what's before us tonight. Okay, so the resolution is that the Council of the Town of Penetanguishene support the Town of South Bruce Peninsula's resolution R40-2024 in support of amendments to the Funeral, Burial and Cremation Services Act 2002, and that council directs staff to share a copy of this resolution with the Honourable Todd McCarthy, Minister of Public and Business Service Delivery, Jim Kazamatis, BAO Interim CEO Registrar, Jill Dunlop, Member of the Provincial Parliament for Simcoe North and the Town of South Bruce Peninsula. I'm going to look for a mover. Councillor Waters. Seconder, Councillor Marchand. Further comments or questions? See none, we'll call for the vote. All in favour? And opposed? That is carried. Number 2 is our proclamation for Pollinary Week. Before I read this, any members have any comments or questions? Seeing none. Whereas pollinator species such as birds and insects are essential partners of farmers and ranchers in producing much of our food supply. And whereas pollination plays a vital role in the health of our national forests and grasslands, which provide forage, fish, and wildlife, timber, water, mineral resources, and recreational opportunities, as well as enhanced economic development opportunities for communities. And whereas pollinator species provide significant environmental benefits that are necessary for maintaining healthy, biodiverse ecosystems, and whereas the Town of Penetanguishene has managed wildlife habitats and public lands such as forests, grasslands, and parks for decades, and whereas the province of Ontario provides producers with conservation assistance to promote wise conservation stewardship, including the protection and maintenance of pollinators and their habitats on working lands and wildlands, and now therefore, I, Doug Rawson, Mayor of the Town of Penetanguishene, do hereby proclaim the week of June 17th to the 23rd, 2024 as Town Pollinator Week in the Town of Penetanguishene, and urge all citizens to recognize this observance. A mover? Deputy Mayor LaRose, seconded by Councillor Rush. We'll call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? That is carried. Moving on is our public meeting. We have one item for our public meeting tonight. This is a public meeting tonight under Section 34 of the Planning Act to consider a zoning bylaw amendment, file number ZA1-2024, to rezone the property from a deferred development, D-zone, to an appropriate residential zones and zone exceptions to facilitate a future plan of subdivision. To council, the purpose of this public meeting is to provide an opportunity for the public to make comments. The purpose of this public meeting is not to engage in debate regarding the merits of the application, nor is it intended to be a question and answer session. There is an opportunity later in the meeting to ask questions on the application after the public meeting has concluded. Andrea, I'm going to ask if you can identify the application for us, if you confirm if notification was made, and if you can note any correspondence received as you outline the proposal, please.
Yes, thank you very much, Your Worship, members of council and the public. I can confirm that we received two applications. One is for a draft plan of subdivision application, and the second application is the zoning bylaw amendment. Those applications were deemed complete, and notice of tonight's public meeting was given on May 2nd. The subdivision itself, just for some information, includes 23 lots for single detached dwellings, 1 block for a 4-dwelling unit apartment building, 4 lots for townhouse dwellings, and the exceptions all relate to some site-specific standards for those units. So, for example, there are 2 lots on Church Street that would have a front yard or a frontage reduction. The townhouse units would have a frontage reduction or proposed frontage reduction, and the 4-unit apartment building would be reduced for a side yard setback. That's what's being proposed. Together with the application, there was 2 blocks for stormwater management, a future road, and the extension of Oxley Street, as well as a service and easement from Mercer Crescent and Chefcott. So for the correspondence we've received to date, there's part of the agenda package later on, but we have received comments from Canada Post, Enbridge, the Simcoe County District School Board, and the Severn Sound Environmental Association with the application. I do believe Ashlyn Kennedy from EcoView Consulting is on the line to go into a further detail with the application.
Thank you, Andrea. Ashlyn, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, Council, and thank you for having me. I'm just going to share my screen. I do have a presentation. Can everyone see that okay?
We can, thank you.
And can you hear me okay?
We can, thank you.
Perfect. All right, thank you. So my name is Ashlyn Kennedy, and I am the planner on the file for this application. As mentioned, the proposal is for a plan of subdivision with 31 units proposed, consisting of 23 single detached units, 4 townhouse lots, and 1 fourplex unit. The subdivision also includes 2 stormwater blocks, a new internal road, and a block for a future right-of-way, should development occur to the south of the property. As Andrea mentioned, we are also applying for a zoning bylaw amendment. I do apologize, the text is probably very small for you on the screen here, but this is our proposed draft plan currently. So as I mentioned, the subject property is located at 245 Church Street, just east of the Penetang Harbor. The property is approximately 2.2 hectares in area and has just over 26 meters of frontage on Church Street. The surrounding land uses include mostly low-density residential. There is a park and future development lands. The subject property is currently vacant and contains mixed vegetation. Again, as mentioned, there are a number of amendments proposed, and Andrea did cover them, but just quickly as a refresher, we will be proposing to rezone a portion of the lands to the R2 exception zone, the R2 zone, an R3 exception zone, and a second R3 exception zone. In support of our plan of subdivision application, we did prepare a number of technical studies, including an environmental impact study, a traffic study, and an archaeological assessment, among others listed on the screen there. These are the current designation and zone on the property in the town's documents as of today. And then finally, it is our opinion that the proposed development is consistent with or conforms to the policies of the provincial policy statement, the growth plan, the County of Simcoe official plan, and the Town of Penetang official plan. And through the amendment would then be consistent with the policies of the zoning bylaw. That's all for me, but I'm here to answer any questions and have any discussions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ashlyn. I'm going to ask if anyone in the audience wishes to make any comments on the application based on land use planning issues relevant to this application. I'll ask you to come to the podium, and if you could please state your name and address for the record, please. I believe we have at least one. So, Sarah, if you don't mind, can you go to the podium for me? And I know, but and if you don't mind just starting with your name and address for the record, and then you can address your comments and questions.
My name is William Grant, and I've obviously got vested interest because I live in 57 Oxley Drive. So if they open the end of Oxley Drive up as a thoroughfare, myself and my son are shift workers. There's some question about building townhouses in the lot. It's not going to improve the aesthetics of the neighbourhood. Surely the best option is or would have been or would be to go through the trees into the lot to reduce the disruption to the neighbourhood. That would also shield the houses on either side of the entrance. That would require lots 17, 18 and 19 being built last, and lot 245 being an entrance. Unfortunately, the layout we got in the mail was too small to identify everything, and I'd just seen the plans in better detail this evening. The upheaval and mess is going to seriously devalue the surrounding properties. Maybe this discussion input should have happened with property owners prior to going ahead with the planning permission. And I don't know, maybe you can tell me yourself. There was a rumour they're intending to build more houses than they have already planned for. I don't know if that is unfounded or if somebody would like to put that to rest this evening. I've got nothing else.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Just for process for everyone, so comments and questions are received. Later in the agenda, we're going to ask staff to come back with a report to answer and identify some of these questions. The proponent will have an opportunity to address them as well, so they don't have to, but when we're done, we'll give them an opportunity. But thank you for your questions tonight. I'm going to ask if there's any other members of the public who wish to address this application. I'll just have you come to the podium, please, sir. Yeah, everyone has an opportunity. So again, if you can make your name and address for the record, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Your Worship. My name is Don Penrose, and I reside at number 63 Oxley Drive. I've had a chance to look at the plans here. They're so small, they're very hard to understand. There's nothing about, looking at you as a person, there's nothing in there in regards to how wide the lots are, how deep the lots are, or any of the measurements. And that kind of concerns me because in here, there's some amendments. You want to change it, some of the frontage won't conform to the bylaw that's there as far as frontage or side lot on one of them. And I think, should have had it here. You're changing from 7.5 to 6.5. I'm not too sure what that refers to. Is that meters, that's feet or whatever? So to me, it sounds like the lots are going to be smaller than what the bylaws allow. I'm not too sure. There's a lot of information I think is missing here. I'd like to see a better lot plan to say how big these lots are, how wide they are, how deep they are, and from there. So it's like you say, it's initial stages, but we all have, much of his neighborhood have concerns. Are there height restrictions within the municipality? I think questions that could be asked not now, maybe later on. That's what I'd like to know. I understand when our subdivision was first put together, There was a height restriction. Some people wanted to make two-story homes and they weren't allowed to because there was a height restriction. I look at some of the townhouses that are going in our municipality, the ones on Thompson Road, they're quite high. I know there's some neighbors here right now that if those townhouses went behind them would be very quite high, would be looking right down on them. I know we're trying to make affordable housing and everything else, and I fully understand that where townhouses may be part of that, but I think the size that they are going to be in this particular neighborhood maybe doesn't quite fit the criteria. The other thing is I think we talk about a fourplex, so I'm not too sure what that means. It's an apartment building, whatever. What would the height be at that? So these are some of the questions that some of the neighbors we have concerns about them. And right now there isn't enough information. So we're just voicing our opinion that we're concerned about lot sizes and heights and restrictions and what's actually going to take place. What kind of homes are going to be built there? Are they going to be two-story? Are they going to be single? Are the lots going to be narrower that they can't be, I don't know. So it's just, there's a lot of, there's some information here, but not enough for us to really say we'd like to see more information and more planning and what's going on. So if that's possible, I guess in the next meeting or whatever, and from the developer here, we need more information than what's there. So, okay.
Thank you very much for your comments and questions. Any other members of the public wish to address us? Yes, let's have you come to the podium. And if you can make your name and address for the record, please.
I'm the better half. Sharon Penrose, 63 Oxley Drive. We have big mature trees right along that water reservoir. And I would like to know from the developer what they're going to do to protect those trees, especially since we're a pollinator town. And I would like to know what those two drainage areas, are they draining into that pond that we already have? Because there's a notice that's just been put up by the town that says, if the water gets too high, you better get out. So you're going to put another 20 some odd houses and a fourplex and townhouses to a drainage pond that at some point could be maxed out. So I'm concerned that there is not been enough thought put into the consequences. And like Don said, the height restrictions, the townhouses on Thompson are huge. And I know you can build townhouses lower. And the fourplex, is it going to be like what's on Mariah Street? Or is it going to be several stories high? So I think we need, like Don said, we need more information. And I would like to know, because the plan that we saw says that Oxley could be extended into the next vacant space. Just how far are you going to extend Oxley? And is there going to be another exit instead of everybody coming from those subdivisions down Oxley and out on O'Reilly? Because 23 plus 4 is 27, plus townhouses, 4 townhouses, which is another 4. So you're at 31 residences, 2 cars a residence, that's 60 cars in a day that are going to be coming and going, plus the ones that already go down. 5 school buses go past our house. Is there not a way to put a road instead of a fourplex, put the road out to Church Street through that fourplex, or put houses down there and a road down there so that you're not overloading the subdivision that we already have? I don't think there's anything else that I can think of yet. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And remember, sir, I'll just have you come to the podium. Again, if you can state your name and your address for the record, please, and the floor is yours.
My name is George Lemaire. I live at 2 Chefcott Street. My main concern is the stormwater system. We have a stormwater system that has never worked in the 25 years I've been there. The area consistently floods. The last storm we had, major storm 2 years ago, that the whole area flooded, the road was flooded. Brian had his crew come in and pump that pond out for 3 days, trying to get the water off the street. With this new development and the extension of the stormwater systems that they're proposing, I was wondering if there's any chance that we can improve the existing stormwater system and maybe connect the two. The existing one did have an overflow in it that was shut down. They took the rocks out from the overflow, put in paper or plastic, and covered the roads or the stones in it again. So there's no exit of water from that pond once it's filled. When it's filled, it backs up onto the road and floods the road. I have pictures I can show you from the last storm. Anyway, Brian's well aware of the problems we've had. And I just hope that this subdivision is not going to create any additional problems in our area. Like along the front of my house, I have ditches that are approximately 3 to 4 feet deep. They fill up and the road floods. The last time it was flooded from us up to Brian's Drive and halfway up Oxley, or halfway up Chefcott, and good part of Oxley was flooded. I've sent pictures to Brian. He's well aware of the problems, but certainly we can't have any more flooding in our area. It needs to be resolved. A few years ago, they tried to improve the pond a bit, but in so doing, they actually made it worse in a way. They made the pond bigger, but there's only 2 pipes going underneath the road to the pond. The water comes down Chefcott, builds up at the end of the road, and those 2 pipes are not adequate to take the water over to the pond to drain the road. We need additional pipes across the road in order to take the water away. Basically all I have.
Thank you very much for your comments. Any other members wish to address this application? Yes, sir. I'll have you come to the podium and state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Doug Potts. I'm the largest property owner that's going to be affected by this.
Sir, if you don't mind, just name and address just for a record, and then the floor is yours.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
If you can just name and address for the record, and then the floor is yours.
Douglas Potts, 237 Church Street. And I am the largest property owner that's going to be affected by this property. There'll be over 10 houses backed onto my property. And when they talk about the stormwater, is that going to end up the ponds going into my property with the water overflow? Because I'm the next place for the water to go if it doesn't go out the other way. Secondly, if this goes ahead, I would request a fence between their property and my property, between the buffer line where they've got the green space. And other than that, right now, I would prefer for this year until it goes, that they go in there and spray the poison ivy. Because if you check everything on my property, it's totally clean. Cut the grass at least once a week, the whole 1,000-acre field. It's 1,078 feet and 137 wide, and I totally keep it immaculate clean. But I'm fighting poison ivy coming onto my property from it. And thank you for letting me mention that. Okay.
Thank you very much. Any other members wish to address this application? Okay, so asking again if there's anyone in the audience who wishes to make comments on the application based on land use planning issues relevant to the application. Sarah, is there any member online that wishes to make comment? Okay, Sarah, the floor is yours. I'll get you come to the podium, name and address for the record, please.
Council, my name is Alan Pfeiffer, live at 103 Oxley Drive. One of my concerns right now is we've had some migratory birds that come back. Green herons have been coming back for about 12 to 14 years. Some of the residents here hear these birds, and we also have a deer in the bush. We see them all the time. They're out on our street. And I'm just wondering what type of environmental studies were completed. There's owls in that bush, there's fox. We see all this wildlife all the time. When that forest is going to be decimated, where's that wildlife going to go? In regards to the hydrology study, my concern with this is what is the depth of these ponds going to be? Secondly, the ponds that are at Oxley now are in the park. 2 big cauldrons were put into that to drain the water, which don't work effectively. But if that water is to leave those ponds, where is that water going? What studies were completed? I think they were 4 foot in diameter. Big cauldrons were drilled, filled with gabion. Is that going to Fox Street? Is it below Church Street? Does anyone know? So the water that's going to be contained in these ponds, is the same thing going to happen? Is it going to sit there, or will it leave the development? And my last question would be on the map, it shows green space. What is the dimension of that green space that's going to be left? It doesn't show. Is it 10 feet? Are new trees going to be planted? When the developer comes in, they bring in big pieces of equipment. They're going to dig up all those roots. Those trees are going to eventually die. So what is the plan? Are trees going to be planted in that park zone that's there, or green space? Couple of questions. That's it.
Thank you very much. I'll ask again if there's anyone in the audience who wishes to make any comments on the application based on land use planning issues relevant to this application. I'll have you come to the podium, please. I'll get you to make your name and address known for the record.
Hi, everyone. Donna Short from 237 Church Street. So again, it's that large piece of property. But when I look at this, the green space is very much importance to me as well. And they were talking about the trees and so on. When you really look at what that 5 acres is about, there is a lot of beautiful trees there. So do we work around them, and do we wreck them because of the, digging and roots and so on, as well as the water? The water is actually quite a big deal. And I know everybody here knows a lot more about it than I do, but I can, when you think of what the water is doing now, if you're adding this density of people and houses, when you have 2 other waterways that are like side by side, to me, the water is going to roll down and be at 237 Church Street because we're going to be lower. It's just the way the geographic way the property is situated. So, I really think we have to really take a good look at density. It's a beautiful piece of property, and yeah, I think it should be developed. We want residential properties, but how dense do we want our properties? And before we go into the building of the properties, to make sure that environmentally, as in the animals and wildlife and birds, are considered. That's really important. But then also the water, the waterway, and how that's going to be really controlled properly, because they are having problems now. And, we need to do that first, and then we can figure out what we're going to do next. And yes, poison ivy is an issue, major issue. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other members that wish to address this application? Okay, Sarah, there's no one online? And my final call, anyone in the audience who wishes to make comments on the application based on land use planning issues relevant to this application? Seeing none. I'm going to turn it back to our applicant, Ashlyn, to see if you have any concluding comments about this application.
Thank you, Your Worship. And thank you to everyone for providing your comments this evening. I'll definitely be taking them back to our development team to discuss them and make sure that we provide you some answers in our next submission. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, no further comments. I'm going to thank everyone for your participation in this public meeting about this application tonight. Just to let everyone know the process. So from here, we'll get a report later in the agenda, 13A tonight, where we're going to ask staff to come back to council through our committee of the whole with answers to some of these questions that you asked tonight. So our director will bring that forward. Do I have that right, Director? And can you just give an idea of what the public could expect from a timeline and what would their participation look like from here on out?
Thank you very much, Your Worship. So two things is the timeline does a little bit depend on the next submission by the applicant and some of their answers to some of these questions. I'm going to make some guesses that'll be fairly quick response back and turnaround. So I would think sometime this summer. But for those from the public who do want to be kept informed about this, if you recall, our new planning alternative notice policy is anybody that leaves their name with me or sends me an email or something, we'll send out an email reminding people or letting people know that it's coming back forward with the recommendations or with the answers to those questions so that the public is kept informed before a final decision is made. So I'd encourage anybody else, if you spoke tonight, I've recorded your name and your contact information, you will definitely receive notice from the town. But if there was anybody else that didn't speak, to let me know and I can make sure you're on that contact list.
Thank you, Andrea. And again, there'll be more opportunity for public to comment. So I'm going to close that public meeting. We're going to move on to our next item on the agenda. The next item on the agenda is B, is a public meeting regarding 65 Nettleton Drive. That has been rescheduled. So I'll come forward at a future date. 10 is delegations and presentations. We have 2 tonight. I'm going to make my way to the podium. Okay, technical blip, but we will get there. So the next item on our agenda is presentations. I love this time of year and what we do, and it's our presentation for Senior of the Year, which was acknowledged by the community last week at our seniors fair that most people probably would have heard or participated at the arena last week for Lorraine Morrow. You know, I hope in my lifetime I'll do like a sliver of what you've contributed. When I heard Benita going on about all the things you have contributed to our community, it celebrates why our community is what it is. You know, it's amazing what everyone does for our community, but Lorraine, it's unbelievable how much you give of yourself to everybody and have given yourself to this community. So on behalf of our community, on behalf of this council, I can't say enough thank yous. And again, if I do this much to what you've done, I'll live the good life. We have I'm just going to say what the comments that were put forward at the seniors event last week. And again, I'm sure Benita had about 30 pages to go through, and I think it was hard to get it down to what it was. But again, thank you so much, Lorraine. And also this comes from the community. You know, this is from our community wellbeing committee that looks at everybody in our community and really looks at who's the character of the community right now that we're celebrating. So this is your peers that are acknowledging Lorraine for the phenomenal person you are. So Lorraine Morrow, the Penetanguishene Community Wellbeing Committee is pleased to announce the recipient of this year's award, Lorraine Morrow. It's our honor to announce that Lorraine's incredible work and lifelong passion and commitment to the community. And it's something that, again, we all pale to compare what you've done. Your tireless giving of yourself and countless work with charities in our community for many, 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 many years. To list a few, the Georgian Bay Cancer Support Center has benefited from Lorraine's generosity of time and talents with her weekly baking. It's been told that Lorraine bakes the world a better place. And I'm going to have to come by a little more often, I think, because I'm a big fan of baking. Lorraine participates in all the Cancer Center's fundraising events, such as the Pink Pumpkin event, the annual garage sale, and Cycle for Hope. In addition, Lorraine has personally raised funds for this charity with her beautiful knitting. Hospice Huronia had benefited from Lorraine's love and caring. As a friend and volunteer of the Penetangee Museum and Archives, Lorraine could always be depended upon to give her time for Canada Day celebrations, Winterama Festival, and the year-end barbecue. No task was too large or small for Lorraine. The local Cookie Smiles campaign could always count on Lorraine's support year after year without fail. Lorraine is always available to help family, friends, and complete strangers if they need help. As an example, this past fall, there was a fundraiser for those impacted by the collapse of the buildings on Main Street. Lorraine was one of the first volunteers to arrive and help for the duration of the event. Lorraine is selfless, kind, authentic, whose constant smile and warm words come through in everything she does. She is an incredibly special individual, walks through life with an open heart, and is always asking what more can she do to help. Lorraine, you're a diamond among us all, and that's why you're the most deserving recipient for the 2024 Senior of the Year. Thank you. Lorraine, did you want to say? You weren't sure, but I think. No, for sure. You won't need a bodyguard, but.
This is my grandson, Taylor. Thank you, Mayor Doug Rawson, Deputy Mayor Dan LaRose, and to all the councillors. It's such an honor to receive the Senior of the Year award. I am overwhelmed. My heart is full. I am so blessed to have so many friends in my life. Thank you, everyone who nominated me. I am so grateful to all of you. I would like to thank my son, Kevin, my daughter, Denise, my grandson, Taylor, my family and friends for all of your love and support, and thank you for coming tonight. A big thank you to Hospice, the museum, Tim Hortons, Lorraine Team Jordan, Big Brothers, Big Sisters, and to the Georgian Bay Cancer Support Center, which we call our home now every Monday, and for letting us be part of your lives. We made so many wonderful friends over the years. It is such a privilege and honor to give back to our community. Thank you to all of the volunteers who give so generously from their hearts. I would like to thank my niece, Anne Beauchamp, for volunteering with me for the last 4 years. It is such a pleasure volunteering with you. You are a very compassionate, kind, lovable niece. It's because of your dedication and hard work, love and support that we, because you're not a senior yet, that I was chosen Senior of the Year. I wish we could have both been chosen for this award. Thank you for always being there for me. Thank you, everyone, for all the love and support. Merci beaucoup.
I'm going to ask Councillor Drush if you can join me and Lorraine. We'll go in front of the podium. We'll get a photo. Maybe we'll get council behind the dais behind. And Councillor Drush, you and I can be in the front. Lorraine, we'll bring your fam up and get a few photos. We've got a couple certificates here for you. So, certificate Senior of the Year Award 2024 from the Honorable Raymond Cho from the province of Ontario and Her Honor, the Honorable Edith Dumont, the Lieutenant Governor of Ontario. So we have that certificate from the town of Penetangee, and we have our Hall of Fame award, which we mount on the wall in recognition of you, Lorraine. Now, we do have a reception with some goodies in our committee room. So if we go out the room and down the hall, there's refreshments to celebrate Lorraine. We will be continuing with our meeting. So if you want to stay for action-packed fun, stay and join us. But if you'd rather have cake and cookies and some fabulous goodies out the hall, we'll give it a couple minutes for people to do that. Lorraine, thank you so, so much. Okay, we're going to continue on. 10B is a presentation from the Lumex Group regarding our community risk assessment. Chief Renaud, do you want to make any introductory comments about this before we get started?
Thank you, Your Worship, and to yourself and council. Lumex Group was hired as part of a 4-municipality consulting group to look at the community risk assessment. It's a mandated requirement as per the government. Grace McDonough is here today here virtually, I should say, to do the presentation for our municipality, and it's specific to our municipality.
Thank you very much, Chief Renaud. So, Sarah, my understanding is our presenters online.
She is. Grace, you're welcome to share your camera and your slide, please.
Good evening, everyone. Can everyone see my slide?
We can, and we can hear you well. Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, good evening. It's my pleasure to be here tonight. I am Grace McDonough, and I did have the pleasure of developing the community risk assessment with a great deal of assistance from Chief Renaud and his staff. The document itself is quite a lengthy one. It's just over 100 pages. So I am hoping tonight to give you an overview of what is the important parts of that document and an overview of the risks within the community of Penetanguishene. So just a little bit of a background, community risk assessments. There was an Ontario regulation that came into effect July 1st, 2019. And what that did was require all municipalities and fire departments, or municipalities with fire departments, to conduct a community risk assessment before July 1st, 2024. The community risk assessment really identifies and examines which threats a community is most likely to face. It examines risks from a fire services perspective. This differs a little bit from your HIRA and risk analysis, which is used more for the emergency management programs. That doesn't mean that sometimes we aren't looking at some of the same risks. The CRA then provides information that municipalities can use to make decisions about the fire protection services that they need. When we are developing the community risk assessment, we look at the mandatory profiles set out by the province. So we look at the geographic profile, the building stock profile within the municipality, your critical infrastructure profile, the demographic profile. That information we take from Stats Canada. We also take a little bit of that from your impact information. We look at the hazards profile, so hazards that exist within the municipality. Your public safety response entities profile, the community services profile, your economic profile, and very importantly, the past, lost, and event history profile. We certainly look at that data very carefully to see what has happened in the last 5 years and try and identify the likelihood of those events reoccurring. So understanding risks. So in the context of a CRA, a risk is determined by evaluating the threat's likelihood and the threat's consequence levels. So the Ontario Fire Marshal's Office states that a fire department should use professional judgment along with their historical information about those past incidents to estimate how likely it is for a given emergency to occur. And the OFM defines consequence as the potential losses or negative outcomes that result after the emergency has occurred. So the importance of identifying risks in the community risk assessment allows municipalities to understand which risks are most likely to occur locally and which are most likely to have serious consequences. So after a municipality learns which fire and life safety risks it is most likely to face, it can determine how to manage those risks. If an emergency occurs and a community has not established adequate response protocols, the consequences could include damaged property, tarnished reputations, and lost lives. So risk likelihood levels. So they range from rare to almost certain. So if something has occurred annually, we then deem it almost certain to reoccur. If it's occurred in the last 5 years, we deem it to be likely. Then we start looking a little farther out. So then we're looking at 5 to 15 years. Then we're looking at, 20 to 40 years. So looking at the different categories, that will give you the likelihood levels. And then we look at what are the consequence levels. So again, from insignificant to catastrophic. So the only time I can see catastrophic being used is in the event of a complete decimation of a community. That would usually be a significant event that affected not just that community, but likely the region around the community. I have never used the word catastrophic yet. Usually we're looking at somewhere between the major and the minor consequence levels when we're looking at risk levels in most communities. Once we have determined what the likelihood is and what the consequence is, then we use the matrix that was designed by the province, the risk level matrix. And as you can see, if something is almost certain, you simply go across the top, decide what the consequence level of it is, and that's going to determine whether it's a low, moderate, or high risk. So the public safety risks that were identified in the town of Penetanguishene were as follows. The first risk was severe weather incident, and that scored high at 120. Critical infrastructure failure scored high at 96. Human health emergencies, fire in residential occupancies, fire in vulnerable occupancies, and road and highway incidents, fire in assembly occupancies, and fire or explosion in industrial occupancies all scored between 68 and 90 in the moderate risk category. Fire in commercial occupancies scored lower at 42. And again, this would be determined by past history and the likelihood of the event occurring. So once we have determined what the risks are in the community, then we develop risk treatment plans for each of those risks. They're created by using an evidence-based approach that identifies the problems posed by a given risk, We consider the potential outcomes of the proposed actions, assess options, and provide recommendations for addressing a risk's identified issues. Risk treatment plans may recommend training, service delivery agreements, resource allocation, or service level changes. Each risk treatment plan that's developed for Penetanguishene recommends at least one of the following risk treatment options: to avoid or eliminate the hazard, to mitigate the risk by reducing the likelihood or the impact of the risk, accept and take no action, transfer the risk to another party, or share part of the risk with another party. So after reviewing the risk treatment plans, Penetanguishene Fire and Emergency Services should develop and implement programs and services to mitigate each of the identified community risks. So the number one risk is, as we identified, was the severe weather risk. So the risk treatment plan in this case is to mitigate and to share. To mitigate by continuing to provide public education about the importance of emergency preparedness, including what to do before, during, and after an emergency. To share that risk, work with the applicable external partners to implement public education initiatives that teach residents about emergency preparedness. Financial implications. So implementing this risk treatment plan is not likely to cause immediate financial impact on the department's budget. Penetanguishene may need to purchase supplies if the town's EOC facilities lack adequate equipment or require restocking. The town may also need to purchase equipment or supplies if it cannot support a virtual EOC. And using non-municipally owned buildings and services may have some associated costs. So the department should incorporate the strategies in this risk treatment plan into its regular operations. So the next risk was critical infrastructure failure. And again, the risk treatment plan is to mitigate and to share. So provide public education about the importance of having a 72-hour emergency kit and continuing to offer applicable services as required. Share that risk by continuing to work with the authorities who are responsible for the critical infrastructure in Penetanguishene. So this is recognizing that not all critical infrastructure in Penetanguishene may be the responsibility of the town of Penetanguishene. The financial implications are that it should not likely cause an immediate financial impact. However, if there is a critical infrastructure failure that affects any of the critical infrastructure owned by the town of Penetanguishene, the town may incur significant repair costs. Again, the department should incorporate these strategies in the risk treatment plan into its regular operations. The next risk, number 3, was human health emergency. Again, the risk treatment plan would be to mitigate, continue monitoring for signs of human health emergencies in Penetanguishene, follow the advice of the local health unit and the province of Ontario as applicable. Implementing this risk treatment plan is not likely to cause immediate financial impact upon the department's budget, and the department should incorporate the strategies in this risk treatment plan into its regular operations. Number 4, fire in residential occupancies. So this risk treatment plan, again, is to mitigate, to implement a multi-year smoke alarm program with the goal of ensuring all residents of Penetanguishene have working smoke and CO alarms. Conduct regular inspections of select residential occupancies in Penetanguishene, such as the town's multi-unit residential occupancies and hotels and motels, and strive to provide fire safety messaging to all residents of Penetanguishene by distributing public education and attending community events. I would just like to say that the department is certainly already providing fire safety messages. They are attending community events. So to continue that work, and certainly smoke alarm and carbon monoxide programs were interrupted during COVID. And I know that it is certainly in Chief Renault's plans to get that up and running again and to enhance that program by setting goals and tracking the results. The financial implications of implementing this risk treatment plan could have financial implications on the budget if additional staff is required, or there are more work hours required to complete the inspections or to deliver public education as part of the smoke alarm and carbon monoxide alarm program. The department will incur costs when it purchases smoke and carbon monoxide alarms and batteries. However, the department can consider invoicing residents for the cost of the alarms as applicable. And the department should incorporate this strategy in this risk treatment plan into its regular operations. And finally, risk number 5 would be fire in vulnerable occupancies. The risk treatment plan, again, is to mitigate this risk by continuing to conduct the annual inspections of vulnerable occupancies in Penetanguishene, as well as witnessing and auditing their fire drills, and to complete pre-incident planning processes for all vulnerable occupancies in Penetanguishene. This risk treatment plan may have a financial impact on the department's operating budget if the department assigns additional staff members or requires more work hours to conduct inspections and complete the pre-incident planning process at the vulnerable occupancies in Penetanguishene. The department should incorporate these strategies into its regular operations. The only other thing I wanted to touch on tonight, and it was not one of the top 5 risks in Penetanguishene, but I did want to touch a little bit on the fire in industrial occupancies, which scored 68, so is still in the moderate risk category. Just a little bit of background. There are 74 industrial occupancies listed in the town of Penetanguishene. And there has only been 7 inspections done on those occupancies in the last 5 years. Again, certainly taking COVID-19 into consideration. So, there would not have been very many inspections possible in 2019 or 2020. But certainly, I think one of the areas that where fire prevention can certainly improve is to ensure that those industrial occupancies are being inspected on some kind of a regular basis. And this may mean developing a fire prevention policy that speaks to that. And ensuring that those inspections are carried out and that records are kept of those inspections. So the next steps are to review and update the community risk assessment annually. This risk assessment will have to be redeveloped in 5 years' time, but certainly updating it annually will make that a less daunting process. And develop a process for collecting and maintaining the data for the community risk assessment. So in Penetanguishene, as in almost all of the communities where I have been involved, one of the things that is not being tracked is the use of lightweight construction. And the province has mandated that we begin to report the use of lightweight construction in the municipalities. Most of that will be found in residential construction, although there is likely going to be some in some of the commercial, standalone commercial development as well. So certainly developing ways to track that data going forward is important, and to use the community risk to develop future strategic planning for the department. Does anyone have any questions or comments?
Grace, thank you so much for your presentation tonight. I'm going to turn to council. Any comments or questions for the presentation tonight? Seeing none, thank you so much for your presentation tonight. We appreciate your work.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, moving on, council. Number 11 is our adoption minutes not already confirmed. I have a motion that the following minutes of council meetings be confirmed and adopted as circulated. Special council for May the 8th, 2024, and council for May 2024. Comments or revisions? Councilor Roux? No, you're moving that? Moving that? Seconder? Deputy Mayor LaRose. Call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? That is carried. 12 is our consent agenda. Council, I'll pull 12C to talk about a little bit, but does anybody need to pull or comment on any of the items on the consent agenda? Okay, seeing none. So 12C, Council, is a letter from the Protestant Separate School Board. It was attached later this afternoon for everyone's review. Protestant Separate School Board reached out to myself May 22nd with a confidential letter asking if we can work with them to come up with land opportunities at 51 Dunlop. That was forwarded to the CEO, who had subsequent follow-up with Burkeville in the last couple of weeks. We didn't want to do this in closed session. We want this to be an open. So tonight that letter's here and open for your review and the public's review. I would ask, maybe we'll turn to the CEO. I'm going to see if, from a process perspective, I'd like to see if we can maybe get a report back. What are some options and a move forward? And let council look at this at a future council meeting. So, you know, it's here before us tonight, council. I don't think tonight's the night that we want to get into this. I think we need to hear more from staff and what that looks like, timelines and deliverables, and possibly bring that back at a future date. Does that make sense, Madam Clerk or CEO?
Through your worship, yeah, I mean, I think it makes complete sense. And the clerk and I were just quickly conversing. I think from a process perspective, if we can just add it as a referral item at the appropriate time. And certainly we understand the urgency of this, certainly from Burkeville's perspective. They have expressed that, you know, they do have a window with the ministry. And so we certainly will be cognizant of that at a staff level, assuming committee and ultimately council would like to see that staff report. Okay. For clarity, CEO, so referral through committee of the whole, we don't need to act on it here tonight in this part of the agenda. Okay. Council, on that piece, any comments or questions? You know what I know, but we just wanted to put that out in the open, be transparent. Again, we didn't want to do this in closed. We want this to be in the public domain. So that's the process we followed. Our CEO just heard back from them just recently to say, yes, we're open to having that in public. Okay. If we're not pulling any others, on the consent agenda number 12, we have the motion that the following consent agenda items have been given due consideration, be received for information. I'll look for a mover. Councillor Marchand, and second by Councillor Vadabunker. Further comments or questions? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? And that is carried. 13 is matters for consideration. We have a couple this evening. The first one's regarding the public meeting we had a little while ago. So it's a background of the public meeting for zoning bylaw amendment ZA 1-2024 regarding 245 Church Street. It's our staff report PL 2024-32. And the motion is that the public meeting report PL 2024-32 zoning bylaw amendment file number ZA 12024 for 245 Church Street be received for information, and that any matters identified in the report PL 2024-32 and at the public meeting be addressed in a report to future committee of the whole. So I'm going to look for a mover. Councillor Roux, seconder. Councillor Marchand. Comments or questions, council? Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. When I was first reading this, it was the part of the zoning regulations that kind of got to me, and I'm just wondering, Andrea, if you can give me an update on why we want to change them so dramatically in spots.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Director Betty.
Thank you very much, Your Worship, through you to Deputy Mayor LaRose. So the zone exceptions, they do relate to only a few of the properties in the proposed plan of subdivision. So I'll just really quickly go over them. The two lots fronting onto Church Street, they're being asked to reduce their frontage, the width of the property from 15 meters. I'm sorry, I've closed that. I think it's 12 meters, 12.5 meters. So about 2.5 meters reduction in the width of that lot. That's the site-specific reduction for those properties. For the townhouse lots, there are 4 townhouse lots that would be onto the new extension of Oxley Drive. The bylaw requires those have a lot frontage of 7.5 meters, and the requested amendment is to 6.5 meters, so a reduction of about 1 meter. Those are some of the types of townhouse built forms that you can see around Ontario. And the last reduction does deal with the block set aside for a multiple dwelling unit. It has a couple different, you can call it a couple different names. I think for all purposes that you need to know is there's 4 units there. There will be 4 units. And so they've called it a double duplex, which under our old bylaw would have been a semi-detached with an apartment in each, a duplex each. So that's sort of what they might be thinking of built form in that one. But the R3 zone for a multiple dwelling unit, it contemplates an apartment building. And so that's why that setback from 6 meters is in there. And so we realize it's not necessarily something that's appropriate for what they're proposing for 4 units. The building code, you know, for a regular property, you could have a triplex that would only require a 1 meter setback there. So this isn't much more of a dense development that would require or need some of the larger setbacks. So those are the areas that they are requesting those exemptions. The bulk of the single detached dwellings that would be on a new municipal road will meet the R2 regular standards for lots. So there's no exceptions for those lots. So it's just some tweaks to the zoning performance standards around some of those lots on Church Street and on Oxley.
Thank you, Director Betty. Does that answer that for you, Deputy Mayor?
Yes.
Okay, any other members, comments or questions? Just for the public's interest, so council's not debating, approving, nothing's happening tonight. What we're asking tonight, what the motion's saying is, everything that was presented, the questions you asked, we're asking our director to take it away and come back with a future report. That's all we're asking tonight. And at that future report, we're going to understand more about all the questions that was asked, and then we're going to be able to debate the merits of the application. We're not deciding on the motion on this tonight. That's all we're asking. Okay? Councillor Vadabunker.
Thank you, Worship. Just for clarity, excuse me, and I did mention this when the director had a report to indicate to council that there was a complete application for 245 Church Street. My son owns and lives in a property on Oxley in very close proximity to the subject property that we're discussing this evening. I think for consistency purposes, even though, as you just indicated, there's no decisions made tonight, it's just going to be referred back to staff. I think for consistency, I should declare potential conflict of interest because my son lives and owns property in close proximity to this development. So I'm going to do that, Your Worship.
Thank you very much, Councillor Vadabunker. I'm going to turn to the Madam Clerk. That's been noted and we're fine for where we're at. Okay. Do any other members have any comments or questions about this motion before us? Okay. Again, for everyone's interest, you can register on the town's website. You can subscribe to us to come participate at a future meeting. This will come at a future meeting through committee of the whole. I'm going to call for the vote. Madam Clerk, it's been noted that Councillor Vadabunker has declared a conflict of interest. He will not be participating in the vote. And call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? And that is carried. Moving on to number B is our asset management plan. I think this is a tremendous celebration for the community. The Deputy Mayor and I had this presentation at the county yesterday. This is something we shall be proud of. I know we've been working on this for a long, long time. So I'm going to maybe put Brian under the gun here because we didn't preempt this. Brian, would you be able to just give a high level understanding, like what is this about? What are we doing? Just in the public understands like the importance of the work that's being done and really it's tremendous, if you don't mind.
Thank you. Through you, Your Worship. The asset management plan being presented to council tonight builds upon the work that's been previously done by staff in previous years. The staff report in front of council tonight is to approve the asset management plan for the town of Penetanguishene. This report and plan includes all assets that the town of Penetanguishene owns and operates, which meets the requirements for the July 1st deadline for the 2024 OREG 588-17 regulation. Next year, the town will be working towards another deadline, which provides a lot of the heavy lifting, a lot of decision making going forward. It'll be an asset management plan for all town assets, but with proposed levels of service. The current report in front of council tonight reflects the current level of service that the town provides. So the next report being brought before to council will have a lot more feedback from the public and council in terms of determining where we go from here and into the future in terms of our service levels. The report in front of council is a snapshot of where our assets are in terms of condition and estimated useful life. As indicated in the report, our assets are in range and score from fair to poor to very good to excellent. A lot of the asset condition assessment data is based on our road network. We look forward to building upon that so that we can provide more accurate information to assist with our decision making going forward in terms of populating capital plans going forward. We are a municipality that has a capital plan every year of an estimate of about $5 million. The current plan right now shows our funding gap of about $4 million with our current assessment data. So that'll be the challenge going forward in terms of tackling that. And I'd be happy to answer any further questions.
Ryan, thank you so much. We have so many assets from snow plows to our sewage treatment plant, sidewalks, roads, curling club and the like. This is tremendous work. So thank you. Council, comments or questions on this item? Councilor Vadabunker.
Thank you, Worship. I just want to echo your comments and compliment staff. This is excellent to have this. It will provide a context for future decision making. As well, it's my understanding that, it's fundamental when we're making application for grants from the province for infrastructure work. Having an asset management plan that can support those grant applications is very important. So it's great to see this here. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Vadabunker. Any other comments or questions from council? Seeing none, I'm going to look for a mover on this item, please. Councilor Marchand, seconder. Councilor DeRush. We'll call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? And that is carried. 13C is regarding the 2024 CO performance evaluation process. Just a background for council. Council will recall we've had a discussion about this. Myself, Councilor Marchand, Deputy Mayor LaRose met. We followed up with some comments in conjunction with our CO and our Director of HR. The policy reflects that. And this is back to council to confirm the policy and the process as we move forward. I'll look to council if there's any comments or questions on this before I call this. Seeing none, the motion is that the Chief Administrative Officer CO Performance Management Process Policy and CO Performance Assessment Tool be approved as amended. I'm going to look for a mover. Councilor Roux, seconded by Councilor Vadabunker. Further comments? Call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? And that is carried. 14 is our presentation, consideration of the report for Committee of the Whole. So members of the public, after our council meeting, we convene into Committee of the Whole. Last month, we had a Committee of the Whole meeting. What we decided at the Committee of the Whole comes forward tonight in council meeting for us to look at it, discuss it, debate it, amend it, change it, or approve it. I'm going to ask each chair of each section to bring forward their committee reports from last month. So just so you understand the process, that's how it works. So I'm going to start with planning and development. So Councilor Vadabunker, if you can help with the planning and development services section report, please.
Thank you, Worship. Section is recommending that 3 consent items be received by council. The first item is a memo from the Director of Planning. The second pertaining to the draft plan of subdivision that I spoke to a moment ago, the 245 Church Street. The second item is a memo from our director pertaining to a proposed zoning application dealing with 65 Nettleton Drive, which we were supposed to have a public meeting, which has been deferred. And the third item was the April activity report from the municipal law enforcement officer. So those are the 3 consent items. Section is recommending that council approve three matters that it deliberated. The first is a zoning amendment dealing with the draft plan of subdivision at 1255 Fuller Avenue. This is for the 64 lot residential development at the corner of Sandy Bay Road. And the rationale for that is that the applications are consistent with provincial policy statement, conform to all applicable provincial plans, the County of Simcoe official plan, the Town of Penetanguishene official plan, and represent good planning. It was noted at the meeting, Your Worship, that changes were made to the plan based on the comments received by the public at the public meeting held in October of 2023. The recommendation is that the draft plan of subdivision for the development to be draft approved, subject to a number of conditions outlined in the staff report. Section is also recommending that a bylaw be passed to approve the Affordable and Sustainable Housing Community Improvement Plan dated February 24, that was prepared by Tim Welch Consulting, Inc. And that the Affordable Sustainable Housing Community Improvement Plan project area be approved, and that the administration of the Affordable Sustainable Housing Community Program be approved in accordance with the recommendations in the staff report. And finally, that the town of Penetanguishene start accepting applications under the plan beginning July 1st of this year. And finally, committee is recommending that council approve staff commencing the public consultation process on the proposed Penetanguishene telecommunication facility noise protocol in accordance with the recommendations in the staff report. There were 2 referral items that were carried forward and no new referrals were added, Your Worship. That concludes my report.
Thank you very much, Councillor Vadabunker. I have a motion that the recommendations contained within the Committee of the Whole report related to Planning and Development Services section be approved. It's moved by Councillor Vadabunker, seconded by Councillor Leroux. Further comments or questions by council? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? And that is carried. Councillor Waters, the Recreation Community Services section.
Thank you. Last month, the Recreation and Community Service had 3 consent agenda items. There was the 76th Winterama post-event report, number RCS 2024-04, the Museum and Heritage Committee meeting minutes, and the Penetanguishene Public Library Board minutes. And I'm confused.
Okay, it's okay, Councillor Waters. Take a second. I'm going to move to Councillor Marchand. Do you mind with the Transportation Environmental Services section report, please?
For Transportation Environmental Services, at Committee of the Whole, we had 4 consent agenda items. We had the Drinking Water Quality Management System report. We had the Midland Penetanguishene Transit Committee meeting report minutes from December. The third report was the Sanitation and Stormwater System Annual Report. And the final consent agenda item was the 5-year proposal for sanitary and stormwater service system plan as well. We had 3 items for consideration on the agenda, and those 3 matters were, the first was the strategic asset management policy. The second one was the awarding of the technical engineering services and quality assurance testing for 3 years. The third item was the disposal of surplus asset report. And then we had 2 items for the upcoming agenda. Nothing had been added.
Thank you very much, Councillor Marchand. We have a recommendation contained within the Committee of the Whole report related to Transportation Environmental Services section be approved. It's moved by Councillor Marchand, seconded by Councillor Leroux. Further comments or questions? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? And that is carried. Councillor DeRush, Finance and Corporate Services section, please.
Thank you. The Finance and Corporate Services had 4 consent agenda items. The first was the 2023 annual water and wastewater write-offs. The second was the 2023 property taxes receivable report. The third was the 2011 to 2023 history of grants received. And finally, the fourth was the 2023 draft year end and 2024 quarter 1 financial summary. 2 matters were brought forward for consideration. The first was the 2025 budget timeline and survey, and it was recommended that the budget procedure policy and the 2025 budget timeline be approved as presented. The second matter was the 2024 tax rates and levies, and that it was recommended that $170,000 be transferred to the town's tax stabilization reserve. There were no changes to the referral items. So on behalf of this section, I ask that council approve the recommendations as presented. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Rush. And the motion is that the recommendations contained within the committee of the whole report related to finance and corporate services section be approved. Moved by Councillor Rush, second by Deputy Mayor LaRose. Further comments or questions? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? And that is carried. Councillor Waters, if we can go back to the Recreation Community Services. It's all good.
I think I'm probably still confused. So there were 3 consent agenda items. As I mentioned, there was the 76th Winterama post-event report, the Museum and Heritage Committee report, minutes, and the Penetanguishene Library minutes. We had one, I forget what you call it now.
Matter for consideration.
One matter for, there were 3 matters for consideration. The museum activities report, the Winterama committee report, and the 51 Dunlop ad hoc committee terms of reference. And I guess that's it.
Thank you very much, Councillor Waters. We have a motion that the recommendations contained within the committee of the whole report related to Recreation Community Services section be approved. Moved by Councillor Waters, second by Deputy Mayor LaRose. Further comments or questions? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? And that is carried. Just for members of public, just a little more information. Councillor Vadabonker in the Planning and Development Services section talked about a matter for planning, said there were some changes that was brought forward. And he brought a timeline from October, and we just tonight heard that. So last month I came forward to Planning and Development Services section committee. He identified that changes were made based on public comment. So that's the importance of your work, participating in the process. And like we identified, it comes forward at future meetings. It takes time to go through this process, but your participation is so important. Moving on, 15 is presentation, consideration, reports for special committees. We have none. 16, motions of which notice has been previously given. We have none. 17, does any member of council have a notice of motion? Seeing none. 18 is our consideration of bylaws. Before I read out the bylaws, council, I'm going to ask if there's any comments or questions. Seeing none. Okay. That the Council of the Town of Penetanguishene introduced the following bylaws. 2024-22, being a bylaw to adopt a community improvement plan for the corporation of the Town of Penetanguishene. Bylaw 2024-23, being a bylaw to designate a community improvement plan project area respecting the revitalization, the redevelopment, and enhancement of the Town of Penetanguishene. Bylaw 2024-24, being a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw 2022-17 as amended of the corporation of the Town of Penetanguishene. Bylaw 2024-25, being a bylaw to adopt the budget estimates of all sums required for the year 2024. Bylaw 2024-26, being a bylaw to set the rates of taxation for the year 2024. And that the bylaws be read a first time, deemed to be read a second, and third time, and carried. I'm going to look for a mover. Councillor Marchand, second by Councillor Roux. We'll call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? And that is carried. I've mentioned this several times. The mayor and deputy mayor sit on county council, which comprises of the 16 municipalities. We think it's important that you know what's happening in the county of Simcoe. The deputy mayor reports back to the community about what's happening. And on your agenda, you'd see that there's 2 council highlights. Through the clerk's office, the updates we receive from the county is added to the agenda. So if you go to our agenda, you'd see those highlights from the clerk's office at the county. And I'm going to turn to the deputy mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Under our highlights, there is a whole lot, but just for tonight, we're going to stick with some of the stuff that I thought would be important for us. So back on May 14th, the county looked into a staff recommendation to deal with the material in our organic waste stream. So we're talking about our green bins. And the staff had recommended at the time that if you didn't put out a green bin, they would not pick up your garbage. So as you can imagine, a lengthy discussion took place. It lasted a couple of hours, I would say. Everybody had their shot at it, but doing the same process that we do here, Your Worship, when it came around on May 28th, it got defeated. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody understood that it was coming, and then people were worried about it, that had heard about it, but it did get defeated. But that said, we will not be giving up on how we're going to proceed to get the proper streams in the organic bin and the proper stream into the garbage bin, so it works for everyone. One of the other ones I wanted to talk about was at yesterday's, excuse me, at yesterday's meeting. We had a presentation from Sarah Mills from our paramedic service. And the presentation was very disturbing to me when we learned about how much physical and verbal abuse our paramedics are getting. I found it very strange that when you make a call for 911, you're hoping somebody to come and help, and these people are putting up with a whole bunch of things that they should not be. So just to let council know that we will be responding to some sort of a system where it would help protect them in the future. So we can look forward to see those coming.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Do any members of council have any comments or questions for the Deputy Mayor about county business? Okay, moving on to our announcements and inquiries. Council, does anybody have an announcement or inquiry?
Quiet group tonight.
Yeah. CO Lees, any announcements or inquiries on behalf of the administration? Okay, I have one. This is a follow-up to the Deputy Mayor's comment a minute ago. The green bin conversation, I think, is an important conversation. The staff report mentioned to us that almost 50% of the garbage that's put at the roadside is actually compostable material. It should go in your green bin. It should be diverted materials into a green bin. And here's the facts. The County of Simcoe has less than 3 years of landfill space. In less than 3 years, we have no more space to put garbage in a County of Simcoe landfill. That's a fact. Fact number 2, the province of Ontario has less than 9 years of landfill space for garbage in Ontario. Less than 9 years in the province, less than 3 in the County of Simcoe. We need to do things differently. And I supported the staff recommendation that said, you can't, you have to put out a green bin with a garbage bin. Because again, half of the material that people are putting out should be going in that green bin. We need to think different if we want a different result. So I hope that through messaging, we can do what we need to do. And the Deputy Mayor was right. We've spent hours debating this topic, but we can't keep doing the same thing. We need to be different. Now, I might be a little off right now, but I'm going to direct a question to the CEO here in a minute. I want us to be a leader, and I think we need to be leaders. I walk through Rotary Park almost every day. I'm here in our office, and I don't see a green bin in the community. I don't see a lot of recycling bins in the community. My kid plays hockey at the arena. I don't see a lot of recycling bins at the arena. So Ceolia, I'm putting you under fire here right now, but I think we need to lead by example. I'm going to ask you, knowing what we know about this, can we do more as a municipality and set the tone and be a leader? And I'd actually challenge our municipal neighbors, Midland, Tiny, and Tay, and say, let's challenge each other that we're going to get more garbage into our compostable, and let's try to divert as much as we can. The county is tracking this stuff and knows who's doing a better job and who's not. And I would challenge our peers to say that, but I think we got to do more at home. So COLEs, I'm going to ask you, can I challenge you and say, could we put a blue bin at the waterfront so somebody put their water bottle in there? Or could we put a green bin here? Or could we put something at the arena? And I'm not asking we be everything overnight, but can we do more? Can we be the leader? Can we challenge our friends and say, we're doing it, you join us? I didn't give you much time, but I'm going to challenge you right now in front of everyone. What more can we do?
Through your worship, there's a lot to unpack there. I think the short answer is yes, we certainly can be. I would argue that we're a leader in a lot of things, North Simcoe, so we would just continue to be that leader. Certainly from a staff perspective, I'm happy to take this away and chat with our team. I think there's definitely opportunities, as there is with a lot of things that we do in municipal government to elevate our game. One thing that I think we can probably do is lean on our friends at the county. I think some of this is educational and really helping get the message out there. And I think as lower tiers, we can certainly play a role in that. And, you know, really just a little bit of a mind shift in it from a community lens, but also operationally as well. So happy to take the challenge back to our team internally here and see what we can do to stay at the top of the leaderboard in North Simcoe.
Thank you, Cialis. This is good. And when the new carts came out, we saw at the county huge uptake, and our amount of diversion materials went up significantly, but it's plateaued. And I guess my challenge to everybody is consider what more you can do. You know, your Tim Hortons cup doesn't need to go in the garbage. The cup itself can go in your green bin. The lid can go in the recycling. So I'm just asking, can we all do more? I've challenged our CEO, and I heard he's come back next month with a plan of how we're going to do that. So thanks, everyone. Any other announcements or inquiries from anyone? Okay, we're going to move on. Number 21 is our confirmation bylaw. That the confirmation bylaw 2024-27 be signed and sealed by the mayor and clerk. I'm looking for a mover. Councillor Marchand, second by Councillor Vadabunker. Call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? That is carried. We're looking to adjourn at 8:51. We'll be back at 9 o'clock. We'll take 9 minutes for our committee of the whole. Thank you, everyone. All right, council, we're going to convene our committee of the whole meeting for Wednesday, June the 12th, 2024 at 9:04 p.m. Approval of the agenda. It's recommended that the committee of the whole agenda for June the 12th, 2024 be approved as presented. Moved by Councillor Vadabunker, seconded by Councillor Roux. Further comments or questions? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? That is carried. If any members have a declaration of pecuniary interest tonight? Councillor Drush.
I will declare conflict for item. It is item, I'm sorry, I did have it written. It is for item section number 9, section D, finance and corporate services. And it is item 3, non-resident fee review update.
Thank you, Councillor Drush. And I know that Madam Clerk has that noted, so at that time we'll make note of that. Any other members' declaration of pecuniary interest tonight? Seeing none. Moving on, presentations and delegations, we have none this evening. 5 is our council information package. Before we read this out, do any members have any items from the council information package you wish to pull for further comment or questions? Okay, seeing none. That the council information package have been given due consideration be received for information. We have 2, May 22nd, 2024 and the June 5th, 2024. I'll look for mover, Councillor Drush, second by Deputy Mayor LaRose. All in favor? And opposed? That is carried. I'm going to turn the chair over to Councillor Marchand for Transportation Environmental Services section.
Thank you. For Transportation and Environmental Services, we have one item on the consent agenda. The following consent agenda item haven't been given due consideration be received for information. It's the Midland Penetanguishene Transit Ridership Quarterly Update for Q1 2024, RDS-2024-09. Can I get a mover for that? Deputy LaRose, second, Councillor Drush. Any questions or comments with regards to that report? I just want to make 2 quick comments. If there's just that I really think that we should highlight what a positive trend we're seeing in ridership year over year. Since 2021, we have seen almost a double increase in ridership, and I think we should be really proud of that. And I also do want to say kudos that we've handed out 173 passes to our seniors since we launched the program last August. So that's not quite a year, but 173, I think we should really be proud of that. And I just wanted to highlight that in the staff report. And thank you for sharing that. All those in favor? Carried, opposed? Okay, motion carried for that consent agenda item. Next, we have matters for consideration. The first matter is the minimum maintenance standard for municipal roads policy update, RDS-2024-10. And the recommended action is that the revised maintenance standard for municipal road policy be approved as presented. Can I get a mover? Councillor Leroux, seconder, Councillor Water. Any questions or comments with regards to the report? No. Go ahead, Councillor Bredebon.
Thank you, Councillor Marchand. I was pleased to see this on the agenda. It was an excellent report. I had a question with respect to the monitoring to ensure that we're meeting the minimum maintenance standards. Could you just outline briefly how we're monitoring to make sure that we're meeting the standards? Thank you.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair, to Councillor Vadabunker. So to ensure that we're meeting the requirements, the monitoring requirements of the minimum maintenance standards, we have assigned staff and contract staff, depending on the season, to go out and monitor our representative road sections to ensure that we're reporting on those road sections to meet the response time and monitoring requirements of the standard.
Thank you.
Any other questions from members of council? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. The next item, we have the implementation of a new utility alternative locate protocol for Rogers Communication Canada, Inc. ENG-2024-11. It's recommended that council enter into an agreement with Rogers Communication Incorporated for the implementation of alternative locate agreement, and that staff be directed to bring forward the necessary bylaw for approval. Can I get a mover? Councillor Waters, seconder, Councillor Drush. Any questions or comments with regards to this report? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? This motion is also carried. Thank you. Referral items. The Transportation and Environmental Services section endorsed the following additional and existing referrals to upcoming agendas and staff. We have 2 items currently: traffic calming measures on roads with sidewalks with a priority of streets with no sidewalks. This is up for Q2 for this, which will be brought into Q1 of 2024. Traffic calming measures for Belzile Drive and Thompson Road. That's looking at Q3 2024. Is there any additions, or do I need a mover first? No. Any additions? Mayor?
Thank you, Councillor Marshall. I actually think the first referral item can be removed. I think that's been addressed. I know we had an MOU come forward recently, so my understanding is that could be removed. I'd be happy to remove that or move that we move that.
And I think I keep pushing back on this. Only reason I do is because I know what we're looking at from speed enforcement with the cameras, I'm assuming is what you're referring to, but does this really address the streets with no sidewalks in terms of a calming measure? Is this kind of incorporated because we did look at it from a community? Okay, I'm getting the nod. So I'm happy to move to remove that item.
I'll just say from my lens, we asked staff to come back with a report and they've done their part. If we keep it on, I don't know if he's going to come with a different report. That's all I meant.
Yeah, I get that. And I think part of the piece for me is when we looked at no sidewalks and when we looked at the speed enforcement piece, I think we have focused on community zones, and we've made some changes to some of our bylaws that they would be considered in their areas that specifically don't have sidewalks as well, I'm assuming. So I'm okay to take this off. I support that. Does that work? Okay. So can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Mover, Mayor Rawson, seconder, Deputy LaRose. Any other comments or questions? So we're going to remove that first one then, Madam Clerk. Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? Great, that motion's carried. Any questions from the public or media with regards to this section? Great, thank you. I'll hand it back over to you, to the mayor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Marshall. Moving on, 7, Section B, Recreation Community Services section. I turn to Councillor Waters.
So tonight, we have 4 items on our consent agenda. The first is a memo from the Director of Recreation regarding an electrical and plumbing service tender. The second is a memo from the Director of Recreation regarding funding program update and recreation master plan. And third, we have the Museum and Heritage Advisory Committee meeting minutes. And number 4 would be the wharf structural condition and repairs. Would anybody like to pull any of these items for discussion? If not, could we? Then the motion would read that the following consent agenda items, having been given due consideration, be received for information. And I'm looking for a mover. Councillor Russian, our Deputy Mayor. All in favor? And it goes. So now we go on to our matters of consideration. We have 2 matters. The first matter would be the arena concession stand agreement. The recommended action would be that the staff be directed to proceed with securing an agreement for the concession stand operations at the Penetang Memorial Community Center without releasing a proposal. And that the agreement be secured with the current concession stand provider, the Snack Shack. And further, that the staff be directed to bring forward the necessary bylaw and agreement for approval. Then finally, that the CEO and Director of Recreation Services be authorized to make minor alterations. Would anybody like to pull this item?
You want to get a mover and a seconder to discuss it.
I need a mover. Could I have a mover for this? And the Councillor Drush and seconder Councillor Marshall. Would anybody like to discuss this item? And our mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Waters. Councillor Waters, just hit your mic if you can. Thank you. I'm wholeheartedly against this recommendation. I'm hopeful that we can either defeat this or send it back to staff for further work. I appreciate the sentiment and the comments that were put within the report. My concern is this past hockey season, while I've been at the arena, I have had two individuals come to me and ask me how can they become the operator of that concession stand? And I did direct them to town hall to ask because I didn't know the contract length and what that looked like. I do know that there's at least two people that are interested. My bigger concern with this is about openness and transparency. My biggest concern is a management team member of the town of Penetanguishene, I think, is in a conflict with the provider. And we're saying we're going to provide it without a process, without a tender or an RFP or something that tonight we're just going to say, let's forego our written policy and let's provide it. And that's my biggest concern is the relationship with management here in the town. And I think with that, we owe it to the community to be transparent in our process. And I don't think it's going to take us a lot of time to go through a formal process. If no one applies, great, but we owe it to everyone to do that. So I'm going to vote in opposition to this item on those merits.
My position is probably the complete opposite, and I will be voting in favor of this. I think there's a couple things, and first of all, thank you for the time and consideration put into the report, because I think it's important that you know, we talk about what's going on in other municipalities and other arenas in terms of food being provided, and it is a struggle to have providers bid on these particular services. You know, I think we need to keep into consideration and keep in mind that although the RFP process, the concept is that it's really simple, this paperwork is, you know, and these forms and applications are usually 30 some pages that our staff is now going to have to spend time to look at. You know, if we look at the report, this is a revenue generator of a whole, you know, like it's, you know, it makes $7,000 in terms of the concession rental. This is not a big ticket item that I feel that we're not being transparent about. And you know, a couple months back, or perhaps a year now, you know, we had a recommendation about, you know, moving our gas supplier, but and everything was about supporting local business. And the Snack Shack operator is a local business individual, and she happens to be married to a manager within our organization. We live in a small town. We know a lot of people. People are married together. That individual has no direct influence on this report and the ability for a decision to be made. So I don't see a conflict there. So for those reasons, I feel it's important to support someone who is so giving of the community and of herself, and to save staff time. These are big items that, you know, if no one bids, no one bids, but we spend a lot of time getting this stuff ready and putting it out there. We can't lose sight of that component that this does take up staff time as well.
Thank you. Is there any other comments? Or Dan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We did discuss this at our section, the same kind of vibe that came up that we had from of what the mayor said. The operator of the Snack Shack does a great job, has served us well since I can't remember how long. It's been forever and a day. I have no problem with the person, no problem with them providing us with it. My only issue is the perception throughout the community that nobody else got a chance. So it's unfortunate that it's going to take a little bit of time and a little bit of updated paperwork, but I won't be supporting this as it's written.
And Councillor Marchand.
Perhaps this can be redirected, but question on if we receive no tenders, what does this mean for us?
And I guess we'll ask Sherry to comment.
Okay. Thank you through the chair to Councillor Marchand. Some of my colleagues have experienced this, and they just reissue tenders, hoping to receive a response. And if we don't receive a submission, then we would not receive revenue and the space would sit vacant.
Thank you. Please call for a vote. I guess the only thing I could add is that I agree with our deputy mayor there that we need to be transparent. I have absolutely no problem with the lady that's been running the snack shack. And I also agree that it's a small town, and the fact that there's a relationship there between a staff member and her that's should be totally irrelevant in a small town. But we need to appear that we're being transparent. And well, I guess go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to provide a couple pieces of clarification for committee. One is, and I'll just highlight, just to be open and transparent, this arrangement, we run into this from time to time in a small community. In this particular case, the relationship that has been noted, the individual that works for the town has nothing to do with this business relationship with the provider. We've been very pointed over the last several years, given how long this has been in place, to not have, to remove that conflict. And I think it's been said, but I just wanted to clarify, we're very cognizant of that and very respectful of that. The second piece I would just mention is this is not a new concept for us. The report talks about how we did this in 2020. Again, very open, very transparent. The last term of council received a very similar report. And so this is not a first time that we've done this. This is, in fact, I believe the second time that we've done this while we've had the employee in the current role that is in a potential conflict. So just wanted to make sure that committee had as much information as they could. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councillor Leroux.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I actually am agreeable to supporting this because of the simple reason. It's not the first time that the municipality does single source RFPs. It's not the first time, and I'm sure it's not going to be the last. There are circumstances involved and surrounding, and I think that when you see the amount of dollars that are involved, to me, it's not a big credit. If we were looking at a $25,000, $30,000 or $40,000 deal, yeah, I'd think about it twice. But for the amount that is being involved and single sourcing to someone that we know has done an excellent job for the municipality all these years, I can't see any reason why we wouldn't go forward with it.
Thank you. Any other comments? Councillor Vadabonker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Pretty much everybody else has weighed in here. I'm going to indicate that I'm going to support this. I think the report was excellent. There were, in terms of option A, it's very clearly laid out the rationale for why option A is being recommended, which is renew with the snack shack. I'm not going to repeat everything that was there. I can just say that in my experience, I can vouch for what's been said in the report, and I agree with the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? No. And I guess we'll call for a vote. All in favor? 4. And opposed? Motion's carried. Second item would be our accessible beach. The recommended action is that the accessible beach report be received for information, and that the town introduce a rolling boardwalk to improve accessibility at Rotary Champlain Wendat Park Beach. And further, that staff continue with capital planning for the Huronia Park as outlined in the report. Would anybody like to comment on this? Oh, sorry. We need a mover, I guess. Councillor Josh and Councillor Vandenbunker. Anybody like to make a comment? Councillor Vandenbunker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, another excellent report. It's interesting, the two options that were outlined in the report, basically the boardwalk and the mat, the accessible mat, and the recommendation is to go with the boardwalk. And I fully support that. I've seen both in action. I've used both types. And I think if in the area where I was involved with, where we did do the accessible mats, if we had to do it all over again, I think we would go with the rolling boardwalk. So I was really pleased to see that, to come forward with that recommendation. So thank you.
And our mayor would like to speak.
This is a great report. I love this one. This is another home run. I know of 2 individuals that are going to be over the moon ecstatic when this is implemented. So I just want to say thanks, because this is very good. Thank you.
Anybody else have a question? Comment? No. Okay. So now I need a mover. Call for the vote. All in favor? And that passes. And the next item we have would be our referrals to upcoming agenda. And tonight we have 1 item. No, and that would be the accessible mats, and it's already been covered, so I guess that can be removed.
The decision will be made next month. The decision will be made next month, so then it can come off.
Oh, okay. Then we leave that on then. The one item that's on there is the options for the accessible mat at the municipal beaches. And our mayor would like to speak.
I'd like to move an addition to the referrals, if I may. There's been some communication and correspondence with the community about our skateboard park. And I know at the pump track opening ceremonies, our friends of the youth actually acknowledged that. They said, hey, our first real big event was a skateboard park. And they said, we're hearing that we should look at revising it, tweaking it, making it bigger, smaller, doing something. And the friends acknowledged that during the pump track. And I know there's a lot of people in the community that are talking about this right now, about what could we do as a community about this? I don't know what the answer is. I'm not an avid skateboarder, but I'd like to add a referral. Thanks for the laugh, Councilor Marsha. I'd like to add a referral item that we look at doing some public consultation and get some staff work on a report